Wagwan to the people, them is the one and only Mini Midas, and we are inside. Now today, I've been fortunate enough to get my hands on a copy of the new Wulong. Now I've been able to have my fair share time on the game, done a few bits here and there, beat a couple bosses, but I thought I'd give you a few tips on what I've seen which might help you in your adventure if you're starting out, even if you're later on. You might have forgot or not even thought about these things. But without further ado, let's get into it. Exploration. To me, I feel like in Wulong, exploration is such a big thing, as without really exploring the areas and many different crevices in the game, you can really rush head on into an absolutely impossible fight. Whether it's a really tanky enemy or just an enemy that's very quick pace, which takes you off guard. For me, I would say definitely taking the time to explore, look around, see what's around, as you never know what you can find. You can collect stuff like weapons, armors, all different elements of pickups which would help you increase your level, as well as finding points on the map called battle flags, main battle flags and sub battle flags. And the reason I'd separate them is if you look at the top right hand corner, as shows there, you got the main one, which is one where you can go to, you're able to access a menu and a lot of different information, whereas the sub ones are just kind of like minor checkpoints that don't give you anything except for just increasing your level, which I will get into at a different point. But yeah, I do, as I said, do take your time to detour, scavenge gear, level up, and head on to the next point bit by bit, because the more you explore, the better it is for you. Weapon categories. Now within Wulong, there are multiple different types of weapons, 13 to be exact. But I feel like they all sort of fit into a few different categories. You have your bog standard kind of swords, straight sabers and curved sabers, which are just your standard easy to use weapons. Nothing like too overpowering or nothing too little, just your straight, easy, normal balanced weapons. Then you have the sort of long range, quick attack type weapons, which is something like spears, with a normal spear or a slashing spear or even a staff. They've got long or short reach, but they're very quick and easy to fight with, and they are quite useful. I believe I've used maybe one or two of them just to check it out, see what it was like, but it wasn't for me, unfortunately. But then you have another category of them, which is something which is another quick and easy to get in with your normal hits, which is your dual swords, dual sabers and dual halberds. They're ones that you want to get in and just do a bunch of different combos. You can do a lot of damage through them, but it was very combo based, and I have yet to try them out, but I've seen they do look pretty decent. And then we hit the big boy, the big ones, which is the glaives, the halberds, the polearms and hammers. They are very heavy, or just they hit a lot. They do a lot of damage, but with high damage, you are sacrificing speed, so they are quite slow weapons. I've really enjoyed using them, but you do have to adapt to your play style on how you want to use it. So when it comes to picking a weapon, I would definitely say take the time to see how the weapons feel. There is a training area that you can go into that you can have an opportunity to try different weapons to see how you do feel. And yeah, generally take the time to tailor the game on how you want to play, because the game is made in a way that you can tackle it in so many different angles, and your weapons are a very vital part of that. Weights versus stats. Now in this game, especially when it comes to armor, there is a weight versus stat comparison. Now you can have really high defense, but what you sacrifice for that is having high weight, and having high weight affects on how you play, as the heavier you are, the less you're able to move around. But you could also do the opposite, where you don't have as high armor, you're able to be very nimble, getting around quite quickly. There is a little icon to show the weight category. This can be seen on the top left hand corner as is shown, and a way to also give you a chance to look at what your armor and weapons and stats do. You can press the D-pad and scroll through. This will give you a description of what things are with a little bit of an explanation, so you understand what it is that you have, whether it is an ability or what the stat is. One thing to keep in mind as you're going through the game is your weight determines how you can play, so you have to keep in mind, yeah, you might want to have the highest armor, but you're going to be very slow. leveling. Now, as you go through Wulong, you will be upping your level by spending a resource called Genuine Key. This can be done by defeating enemies, but also can be done by picking up items off the floor. There will be moments where you might be able to find items such as genuine key flakes or genuine key fragments. Different ones will give you different amounts of genuine key to spend on leveling up. Leveling up is very important. I do recommend taking the time to really look at what each element will give you. They are known as the 5 phases. They all have different specialties and also link into your wizardry spells, which I will be talking about in the next section. I do recommend taking the time to really look at when you have an opportunity to upgrade, as every time you die, you do lose some resources. Wizardry spells are special skills that align with the 5 phases or the 5 elements. They are very powerful tools that can really help shape and turn the tide of battle. There are abilities that you can use, such as firing a firebolt, which can cause an enemy's morale gauge to decrease slower, as well as regain health every time you attack an enemy. These abilities are very, very useful, and you can only access 4 at one time, unfortunately. But another thing to keep in mind as you're going through the way to unlock these spells, you do need to be careful how you're leveling, as they require one of the 5 phases to be at a certain rank. So something might require 5 in green or 5 in red to be able to be used, and it also requires a morale rank. So be sure to take care on how you're setting up your spells, as not everything's going to be able to be used at the beginning of each battle. It does require you to have a certain morale rank, which you will increase every time you start a new battlefield. Max you can hit is 25, so do keep an eye out for that. Blocking versus parrying. Now in Wulong, when it comes to fighting, you have 2 ways of countering an enemy, which is blocking or parrying. You can block by holding L1 or LB, depending on which controller you are using, and this gives you an opportunity to not only block damage, you don't take any health damage, but also gives you a chance to assess how an enemy works, to learn their moves, and to get the opportunity to counter and go on the offensive. But be warned that when you do block an enemy, it does give you negative in your stagger gauge below, which is represented by an orange bar that fills up. And if you do get hit and your stagger gauge is full, you do become stunned, which leaves you open to take massive damage, so do be careful. Then you also have parrying. Now parrying can be done by pressing circle or B, depending on which controller you are using, and this is a very, very vital move within these games, I believe, as it gives you an opportunity to counter an opponent if you time it right, and it's the only way to counter red powered key moves. An empowered attack, which once parried, it leaves them in an opportunity to be hit with an incredibly powerful attack, or if you manage to stun them, you're able to do a fatal strike into the back of them. Another bonus of doing parrying as well is below where you do see the orange gauge. If you parry correctly, you are also able to change the direction that gauge goes into the blue, and through doing that, when you do have a blue gauge, you are at an advantage. You are able to do more powerful attacks, and you are able to attack first most of the time if done correctly. So I would say be sure to pick the right moment to parry, but also pick the right moment to block. This is a very vital skill within this game. Enemy morale rank. The enemies that you will encounter throughout the whole game, including bosses, will have a morale rank above their heads. The color indicates what they are in accordance to your power. So green means they're equal or lower to your power. Yellow means they are 1 to 4 levels higher than you. And red means they are 5+ levels higher than the player. There is a few exceptions to this, as when you do die in the game, there is a buff that an enemy can get. Unless it's a boss, they can be buffed, and which increases their levels so they do get more powerful. So be careful not to just keep running in and dying, as you will face some really hard enemies later on down the line. However, challenging something that is a higher rank is beneficial for you, such as getting increased morale points to increase your morale rank, and them also having a higher drop rate of rare items. Builds. A build is a big thing in Wulong, as your build will determine how you're going to play the game and how you're going to progress. From what spells you use, the type of armor you use, the type of weapons, and generally how you're going to experience the game. So when it comes down to it, I do believe you should take your time to figure out how you want to play the game and how you like to play games. Are you someone that likes to go in quick and fast, getting in as much mini combos as they can? You can definitely do that. Go and equip some light armor, make sure you keep your weight down, pick up a weapon that does really quick attacks, whether you want something with long reach like a spear, or if you want to be up close and personal with dual swords, you can definitely have that. But if you wanted to do mid-ground, you could just pick up a normal sword, put on medium gear, make sure you keep your weight to a decent level. Or if you're someone that wants to be quite tanky and doing mad damage, you can also do that. Or even more so than that, you could be a hybrid. You could be having the most heaviest weapons that do a lot of damage, but you want to be really nimble, so you might put in some light armor. You can build however you want, but take the time to really look on how you're going to build, because each time you do level up, the genuine key cost increases each time. So I'd say take your time to look at how things work out based on what you need, especially when it comes to your Wizardry Spells, as those each cost one, not only morale rank, but they also cost to use them is how high your phase is up. If one takes 5 earth phase and you've only got 4, you can unlock it, but you cannot use it. So make sure you take your time to really think about how I want to play and what I find enjoyable. But that is it. We have come to the end of the video. Thank you so much for being here and staying with me. I've been having a blast with this game. I want to give a massive shout out to Koei Tecmo for giving me a copy of this game to review. And yeah, maybe I'll see you on the Battlefield or multiplayer, and let me know how you get on. Did these tips help you? Do let me know. And what build did you go for? Because I'm very curious. But yeah, without further ado, it's been Mini Midas, and I'm out. Peace.